On this episode of AV Week, taking a look at the experiential side of the AV industry, what it means to have control in the cloud, and the importance of awards for IT and AV. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 555, recorded Friday, April 8th, 2022. Unreal AV.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Atlas IED, innovative audio solutions for every business environment.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. First and foremost, Bren Walker from Kierkegaard. Welcome, ma'am.
Hello. Thanks for having me again. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. I will point out that Bren is technically on PTO, and yet she still joined us. So
Wouldn't miss it for anything.
I appreciate it. The next two gentlemen don't really need an introduction, not that Bren does either, but I got together back the band from the old Barco podcast. First and foremost, Mr. Mark Coxon, who now works for XTG with AVISPO. Welcome, sir.
How you doing, Tim?
Good. And on the other side of the ring was Mr. Chris Netto, but he is now working for Starin. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I also like to announce that I'm now your new hairstylist. Enjoy the new do. There's a can of Tresemme heading your way, sir.
You and Matt Scott are my hairstylists, so and my daughter. I'm not sure which one. So I just flew in from Houston, and boy, are my arms tired. That is my joke for the week. If you missed it, check out PSNI's 2022 Super Summit. Really great stuff. Had a chance to do a kind of unique experiential interview with 5 really smart AV users remotely. The technical team at Corey's AV put them up on an LED wall behind me. It was very cool. And Joe Way was even there, so there was that. So that was kind of cool. So, all right. First story comes to us from our friends over at AV Network. BuyAmp has won 4 2022 Red Dot Awards for outstanding product design. They have won the quote-unquote prestigious the prestigious Red Dot Awards for DeSono X loudspeakers, for paging stations, video conferencing, and design for the Tessera Forte X. Bren, I'm going to start with you on this. When it comes to looking at products and it comes to figuring out what deserves to be in a client's space, how important are awards to the AV space, and how important are awards when you're talking to folks in the IT market?
Not very. I think getting philosophical about awards, if they pay you to take the award, that's like the MacArthur, like that's an award. But if you got to pay, 400 euros to enter and then 4,000 euros to get your award, I mean, I get it. Awards are marketing tools, and more power to whomever uses them to market them to their best advantage. We always choose products based on the function and what the need is for the client first and foremost. If it's happened to win an award, we're probably going to know more about it because the marketing is going to be maybe more expansive than a product that doesn't have an award.
All right. Mr. Netto, from your standpoint, both from Starin as well as talking to your clients, and from your perch at AV in the AM, as you talk to thousands of folks on a Sunday morning, how important are these awards to the various markets?
Man, I'm just going to open it up right now for the haters to come on and start booing, because that's what we do here, right? I'm a proponent of the awards.
Have I ever booed anybody?
Well, no, but I mean
the Packers.
A booing section now, or people that may hate on me or you or AV Week, because I'm going to say that, yes, I do like the awards. And from a product perspective, right? If it's a voting thing, it is great for marketing, as Brent has said, right? It's attention getting. You're right. We are in a a world of technology that there is 1,000 products that all do the same thing. So you're looking for that way to separate yourself. And if that award is what helps break you away from the next device that does the same thing, so be it. And that's where I'm a fan of it. As when we start talking about awards for people as opposed to technology, I encourage people to even be nominated. Simply because for the amount of time that you're out there and you're being nominated, if you're a person or a product, it's weeks of exposure that you have as a nominee. And to be honest with you, it's equally as good to be nominated on a product for a product award or a person award, because it actually gives you or the product great exposure. So for people, that are concerned about awards, you know what? Go for it. I mean, you know how much it costs to take an ad out in a publication? It's not much different. So you might as well go for these awards and see who covers it. Does it influence, one being better than the other? That's up to you and how you perceive these awards, right? Every Motor Trend Car of the Year award that comes out seems to be always the same, right? Doesn't help me, decide that I'm going to buy a boring Accord, right, over the car that I want to buy. I'm not influenced like that on a car purchase. If that's the way you want to choose your speakers, go for it. If that's the way you want to choose your video conferencing tools, that's up to you. But yes, it's a marketing tool, but I'm just in a different perspective. From a marketing perspective, it is a great tool and a great vehicle for people to, promote their products and try to separate themselves from the pack.
So it's a good ROI from that standpoint.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Mr. Coxon, most recently you worked for a distributor. Now you work for an integrator. Before that, it was, no, I'm sorry. Yes. Integrator now, I lose track of you, dude. Integrator now, distributor, integrator, and then manufacturer. So come down on kind of all these sides, and you do talk to the IT channel an awful lot. Does it matter to that channel? Is it effective for marketing, or is it not?
I think it's good for the manufacturer. I don't know that from an integrator standpoint, talking to an IT manager who's putting products in their building, that if it comes down to them being 20 to 30% more in cost, that the award's going to make a difference in them making that decision. Right? So if it lies within the cost parameters and it accomplishes the goal that they've set out to do, then if it has an award, that's a bonus, right? But not necessarily a decision-making factor in that world, in my eyes. I think many times, AV projects that end up in the hands of IT managers come down to the dreaded phrase that Chris and I hate, good enough, right? We're moving data. Are we getting sound? Are we getting picture? Are we moving data? And if we're doing those three things, then it's a win from an IT perspective. And so if the sound, if the speaker won an award, then that'd just be gravy, right? That not necessarily a buying decision factor. It's funny when we talk about these awards. I remember one time my boss at an integrator fielded a call from a magazine. Bryn brought up this magazine thing, and they said, "Congratulations, you've won, an award for the best integration company within your local, 16 zip codes, and for the bargain price of $2,000, we'll send you this little lucite statue that says, number one integrator in local area, blah, blah, blah." And he promptly said, I actually don't think I'm going to purchase this, but I want to congratulate you on not spending your time trying to rip off old people. At least you're offering a physical product to somebody, and good luck with that out there. To Chris's point, awards are great if you make use of them. Right. And there's a lot of noise, and Biamp's making some stuff that's really cool and different. Like the Tessera stuff is cool and different. It really is. I like what they do with AVB to USB bridging and all the stuff they do with those products. But honestly, 70 volt speakers are 70 volt speakers. So if the award gets you out of the muck, great for you. Use it as a manufacturer, but I don't think it's a buying decision on an IT manager's side.
All right. Very good. Next story comes to us from My Tech Decision. Crestron has announced the enhancements for the VC4, the enterprise IT management. It is a virtual control solution that it allows the VC4 to scale up even higher. Up to 500 spaces can be controlled with this. Chris, before we get started on this, Crestron is a sponsor of AVNation. Before I get too much farther from this, What do we feel about Crestron kind of expanding into this, or expanding their presence in the cloud control space?
Isn't it inevitable?
Inevitable? Is
Inevitable,
it?
isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah. My thought on this, Tim, was about time. Honestly, I mean, I think we've known for a long time with Utology, and Chris and I worked for Barco where they had Overture. We know that server-based control is something that's been available for a long time, that you can pack these control packets on a server, virtualize a machine, isolate it out, put your commands in Docker containers, and then push them out to all these rooms, and then it becomes a licensing play. I think the traditional AV network channel, there were two things standing in the way. Number one, Crestron, sponsor the show, not sponsor the show. We know as integrators that the more you buy, the better your buying level is. And if you start to drop off, all of a sudden you don't buy things as easy. People don't pick up the phone as quick. Those things happen. And so if you start to transition away from these black boxes that were a big part of your yearly annual with one of your major manufacturers, you start to endanger your relationship. So maybe you hold on to something that's appliance based longer than you actually have to help support that relationship. Number one, I think that customers have been pushing for this. Every time we saw customers look at Overture and look at that backend, they really loved it. They liked the idea of being able to program in HTML or Simple or C++ or some language that they knew that wasn't a proprietary programming language to execute codes. These are all things end users have wanted. And then the other thing that's held this back in the market is, and it's the reason that we don't sell services as much as we should just in general, is that integrators are really compensate their salespeople on hardware margins. It's a project-based margin business. Yeah. They haven't really made it super clear in a lot of companies how you get paid when you sell services. So if I can make $1,000 in GP and know I put $200 in my pocket, or I can get a $299 a month service contract for 3 years and I don't know how much the company's going to pay, what am I going to do? As a salesperson, I'm going to take the sure money, right? So I think this actually helps the industry, long and short. Crestron getting into that market, validating it, and then actually creating a partnership with integrators where they start to see this as something they need to build into their ecosystem and learn how to compensate people on it on the back end.
All right. So you actually bring up several different good points.
Sorry.
Here. No, that's why we have these conversations. The first question, and Bren or Chris, either one, what happened with Overture? Like, seriously, like I get what you're saying about it's what the IT channel has wanted, and I have a lot of really great folks that I know that are at Utology, right? I could be wrong, but I couldn't tell you the last time that Utology was at an AV trade show, right? They've not, I'm not gonna say they've abandoned AV, but they found success in the IT channel. And dude, where you find success is a lot of times where you're gonna double down. So they're 100% in that channel, and that's who they're selling to. They're not selling to the AV folks. They're selling directly to the IT folks. Overture was a good competitor to them, and suddenly it kind of just went away. It was an acquisition that Barco made that, quite frankly, they didn't do much with. But Mark makes a good point that Crestron kind of held folks up from going down this road, right? And yes, they have this product now, but we've also got to figure out a way from a compensation standpoint how you, number one, retrain an entire sales staff, and number two, how you help them understand their compensation. Mr. Netto, how do you do this?
You also have the X Factor, which keeps going. It's what kind
Wrong
of
show. This is AVWeek. The X Factor is a different show.
The X Factor is a different show. Simon, the whole deal. I get it. But you have this other, the unspoken mystery component that we talk about on AV and the AM, and that's companies wanting to evolve with the technology, right? At one point, we love to stand up on our podiums and say, you know what, we are super smart. Not only are we super smart, but we've excelled so much that that technology doesn't exist for what we want to do. And then pandemic came, and now we don't have that excuse anymore because a lot of research went into, stuff that we weren't thinking of before. Companies started digging into their vault, right? And it wasn't the room systems. Now it became the work from home systems. And You know what? You want to take a good comparison? You know, how many people were selling soft codec video conferencing systems or licenses successfully prior to the pandemic? Now, mimic that about what's going on with the control systems, right? They didn't know how to sell licenses for control systems, right? Maybe Utelogy had that down right. You know, maybe they had some special secret sauce in play that Barco couldn't figure out, right? And maybe Crestron was just lying in wait, just waiting to see how this would shake out. You know, I'm gonna be the optimist here, and I'm just gonna think that there was something holding Crestron back from doing it, because Crestron, and I've said it before in the show, Crestron is a big bowl of mac and cheese. It's comfort food for integrators. They know the brand, they know their engineers, they know what they're getting out of Crestron, they know the swirl logo, right? You walk into any conference for the last 15, 20 years, and you know that there was a black touchscreen on that, and you knew who that belonged to for the most part. They were the dominant player. We got evidence of that once AMX was purchased. We thought AMX was a close second. And when we go to, dig into the numbers, we discover that Crestron was the bigger, the bigger, player in that space than we thought. So Crestron's holding this, this brand in a lot of hearts and minds, because a lot of people were very comfortable with what they were doing with that. And I think that, one of the side effects of the pandemic is that people have been having to rethink and reimagine how they do business. And even the customers are rethinking how they do integration in rooms. Because as of today, and today is April 8th, right, that we're recording this, as of April 8th, give me somebody who can definitively define what the huddle space of 2022 is. And I will tell you that they're also trying to sell you a bridge, right? Or some swampland, because it doesn't exist.
Who's huddling?
Okay.
To me, if I ran Crestron, I would have waited too, right? Because where they are dominant, they have a walled garden in a lot of ways. And when you start moving from appliance to service, it's far easier for a competitor to come after you and to take market from you. So, there's the whole shift from hardware to software is the reason why I'm in this field, is because of the opportunity that I saw rising from it over the last 5 years. And yeah, this is a place where you can compete against Crestron without being a monster.
Brent, can I ask you the follow-up question? We'll just remove Tim as the host from this conversation.
Sure.
It's nothing new.
Do you now see this as what we formerly knew as the ecosystem wars, right? Everybody wanted to create, you called it a walled garden. Marketing wise, we'll refer to it as ecosystems, right? Mm-hmm. We build our own little space, we add our own little devices within our little ecosystem. It's safe. It's the safe confines of that. Once you start moving into this, out-of-box experience, what happens, right? And I think this is now also signaling that the ecosystem is changing. Even, that's evolving, and how we used to think of it as you buy your speakers, your camera, and your hardware pieces or devices, and that was an ecosystem. Your ecosystem right now in the world of AV in 2022 has to include services and objects living in the cloud. That is part of your ecosystem now. And that includes backend, that includes servers, that now drags your entire IT department into the conversation. And God, we can open up a can of worms by talking about AV as IT and the other way around. So,
but it is.
AV is IT.
It's, devices on a network moving data back and forth, right?
That's simple.
It's pretty simple. It's just a matter of how complicated are the devices and what's proprietary in them or not. And at some point with the ecosystem wars, you have to decide, do you open up or not? And if someone else opens up, I worked in mobile apps in 2010 and saw Android basically come in and just swallow up advertising because they said completely open, right? So there was Android, iOS, and no other player was able to survive. One was completely open and one was completely closed, pretty much. right? So eventually this conversation about ecosystems is going to go the same way, and someone's going to bust through with something that's not the closed off walled garden version of it, but that is open and lets people do whatever they want. I mean, yeah, you got to let people program in different languages on the back end, of course, right?
Yep.
You know that Tim is gently weeping over the loss of his BlackBerry.
Oh, no, hang on. Coxon was the BlackBerry. I was the Palm guy.
Oh, even worse.
I had a BlackBerry and a Palm. I had a BlackBerry and a Palm 5 at the same time.
I held on to the Palm all the way through the Pebble, right? The slide out, the black. Oh yes, that thing was. Oh my gosh.
I still have a bunch of those. You know, what? And think about it. What was it that allowed RIM to hold on for as long as they did? I mean, they should have been dead sooner.
Security.
But the thing that allowed them
They
to
should
hold
not
on,
still be dead, Brent. Oh come on.
corporate security was the thing that allowed them to hold on.
Yes.
And the thing about
Yep.
this announcement from Crestron that I thought was sort of buried in there was the enterprise security. And what does that mean? And is it enough?
Well, it means that we're, as an AV industry, we're finally getting it. Is it enough? No. It's just
Exactly.
not. No.
But I will tell you this: a big company like that has more opportunity to create the right type of security paperwork to get through that process. We built a virtual receptionist at a company I worked at, piece of software that just used WebRTC and some point-to-point server analysis. Now, we were selling that to corporate, and that was fine for virtual receptionists, but the second a hospital wanted it, we didn't have anywhere close to the documentation on how it worked to get that through the system. So somebody like Crestron could definitely open those doors by making sure that they have all that paperwork in line.
Yeah, and they've already done some legwork. They've got JITC approval for some products and stuff like that. So yeah. All right, I want to get to this because I jokingly gave Coxon a hard time about trying to follow his career path, but the story that we're going to use to launch is a really cool implementation of a Nike Air Max quote unquote 3D LED screen illusion. I say quote unquote because it's not. It's 3D without the glasses. It's a gorgeous.
It's faux D?
Yes, faux D. Thank you.
I'll jump on this. So let's say what it's not. It's not 3D.
Yes.
It's not stereoscopic.
No. Or even auto stereoscopic.
Or auto stereoscopic, and it's not AR, and it's not a hologram.
Yeah.
So let's say all those things. Let's say what it is. It's really freaking cool.
It's really freaking cool.
It does. It's really freaking cool. So this is what happens when, and for me, this is where it gets really fun. This is what happens when you get people that actually know how to create content, work within a building and the building's existing architecture, and then add technology on top of that in a way to create an effect from a certain point of view that looks like it escapes the building. And there are a lot of factors that go into that, right? Like parts of the screen aren't lit up as parts of the screen. They're lit up to look like the building, so that when the shoe comes out, it looks like it's going in front of the building when it's really still contained within the screen, right? And so that's a play of content, of perspective, of architecture, and AV all mixed into one to create this awesome experience. I would say that's experience technology made by some group, probably somewhere, but experience technology, and it's really freaking cool. And from that point of view, it's awesome. But I can recreate it with my 27-inch monitor over there in a cardboard version of a building and make it look like that, make it look like it comes out if you know the concepts. But it's a really, really great execution of a 2D screen viewed from the right angle with an awesome content producer and coordination with the people who own the building.
It's a part of the evolution, right? And we're going to have all these sorts of things that are part of the evolution of getting to I don't know that those of us ever really see the complete virtual world where people are only in that world. It's beyond our lifetime. I think we continue to see the evolution of things that overlap.
Yeah, I think so. I think to say what would be really, really cool, those screens are viewed like if you're standing on the left side of the corner looking in, it looks like it escapes. But if you were standing on the right corner, it doesn't look like that because it's not, you would normally see the other view of that building from that side, right? What'd be really cool is if you could take do like a high frame rate, right? And you have a stereoscopic left and right view and use LEDs with louvers. So if you're standing on this corner, you see the right view. And if you're standing on this corner, you see the left view, and you actually get two different effects from two different viewpoints within the space.
Yes.
Now you start to think, and all these things are possible. It's just, as creative technologists, how can we help people think about, okay, that's cool. Now, how do we take it to the next notch and the next notch and the next
That's
notch?
the exact concept I'm trying to sell an architect for a project that I'm working on. That concept exactly.
See, this is why I had you two on together.
He's not there yet. I got 3 more years to get him there, so we'll see.
Mr. Netto, from a distributor standpoint, and not for nothing, but distributors have evolved into service providers as well, and consultants in their own right. So talk to Coxon and talk to Brent about how you guys can kind of wrap it all together and go to clients with crazy ideas like this.
We can't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, it's not that easy. I mean, if you want to do these kind of things internally, we have a great staff, right? We have CTSDs, we have all the AVIXA certified guys and women working at Starin, right? We have that. But I think this level of imagination is not going to be seen, or just going to come from somebody who wants to sell boxes. This is something that is, there's a math to this. Coxon will remind this to me every time that we were with Barco and we were working on LED or projector mapping or any of these projects that we were doing back then, that there is a science to this, right? This is the side, now get ready, because again, more booing is going to happen, but this is the side that the AVIT conversation is not going to talk about. There is a science to what we do, and there's an art to what we do, right? This is where the IT separates from it, right? Because if the IT doesn't think with an artistic mindset, this is just a monitor on a screen on a desk. To imagine this, you got to employ people that are graphic artists, right? That still pick up a piece of paper and understand how to make a sphere and how to make a cube, right? Some of these ideas that are shown there, I was doing in art classes with charcoal back in the day, or with pen and ink. Absolutely love it. Did I continue on with this field? Absolutely not, because you put the computer in front of me, it couldn't happen. So these are the people that you're going to be recruiting at a Parsons School of Art and Design in New York, and you're going to go to the art schools that are not going to look at the shape of things and just see a square, and they're going to want to go into depth perception and stuff like that. And then we can stand on our podium again and talk about how our technology is not ready for what we want to do, right? Because that's where AV people thrive in, is taking parts of things and all of a sudden having to rig it to make it work because it doesn't exist today, but it will one day. But until then, let's prove it wrong and let's see what we can do with what we got, right? So again, you're treading into magician territory for AV people. We're starting to get our wizards and magician titles back by doing stuff like this. I went into New York. I went into Times Square, and the Marriott Marquis has a massive LED screen that wraps around the corner. And they've done some ads like that before for Balenciaga and for some other high-end ad people in that space. I went there and I stared and waited, and I was there for about 20 minutes. Me and Joe Dunbar, well, we were both in Manhattan. We were sitting there looking, and all we got to see was a big old flat ad for Anderson Cooper. They used the turn, but it was Anderson Cooper's face and on CNN, and then big Anderson Cooper on CNN. There was nothing to it. It seems like now you're going to start getting flavors of digital signage and the content that goes in. Oh, you want regular content? Here's your Happy Meal of content. And then there is the custom stuff. And I think that's where Mark and Brent are going to be playing more in than the world of, out of the box stuff. And most distributors, to be honest with you, and most people that are out there providing these services, we can sell the LED that goes with it, and we can provide you with the service and the mechanical parts to it. But when it comes to the content creation, this is where it gets very tricky, because we need to know where our strengths and weaknesses are. And right now, creativity is not something that we have in-house at Starin to create those kind of designs. So for us, we would probably go ahead and recommend one or two companies that are out there pushing those envelopes and doing that kind of content, right? And we're not out there to competing with the integrators anyway, who are going to be looking to bring those folks in, right? About a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, we were talking about how data scientists were needed inside of AV. Man, if people had only hired some data scientists prior to the pandemic, they would have had some great data over the past 2 years of how things are being used in spaces. But no, we argued against that, and we all decided that that wasn't a good thing. We were just collecting data and didn't know what to do with it. We could have used some scientists. Well, the next argument is going to be, do we bring in the in-house content creation people? Yes, it's going to cost you money, AV folks. Company owners, it's not going to come cheap. You're not going to get them out of the Art Institute of Philadelphia on a dime. You're going to get them, and they're going to come with a premium because they're going to create images and do things like this. So, fair warning.
You know, Unreal is today's HTML. And, you know, if you're under 25, learn Unreal and you'll always get a job. And the same way that you can find someone at $15 an hour, or 18 or 25 who can code HTML, that's eventually going to happen with, engines like Unreal. It'll take some time. But I do think, there's this thing with AV about, do you want to be in the trades or do you want to be in the arts and sciences? Do you want to be AV plumbers or do you want to design water sculptures? And there's places to play on both ends. And some of us like to do the water sculptures. Some of us like to do the cool stuff. And, we want to work with somebody who's reliable with the plumbing.
Yeah, we gotta just shift our mindset from being the GC, based projects, because everything is based around the building and the general contracting and stuff like that, and start thinking a little bit outside the box. I think that has given a lot of freedom to projection mapping. It's given a lot of freedom to the LED stuff like this, the Nike signs, and obviously the Balenciaga signs, and all these ads that are getting attention. Man, even drones are finally starting to get the attention of people because it's more than just a camera on a helicopter, right? You're seeing these things being brought up in the same context in 3D, where they're adding depth and shapes and movement to these things that at one point was just gonna, what can we make out of this? Oh, we can make an arrow to point that we're here. Awesome. Now, look at what they're doing in place of fireworks. So it's taking light shows and it's taking graphics, and they're basically recreating the same thing with LED, what they have with LED, but now it can float and go anywhere.
Yeah, no pollution. You've got, AI. NVIDIA was a big part of that with the AI and parallel processing and a hive mind for all these drones. We're at a point where technology can do some really cool things. It's just like you said, Chris, it's unleashing or like Bren said, who wants to be the sculptor and who wants to be the plumber, right? Like there's those two roles and they're both equally important.
So as we wrap up here, I was giving Mr. Coxon a hard time. It is kind of interesting, though, where he's headed, and it was a group I was not familiar with. But Mark has recently joined AVISPL, part of their XTG group. Talk about that for a second, because you guys are on a path. You've been hiring some pretty talented folks. Explain to folks what they're doing there.
So just like what we were just talking about, in projects like the Nike sign, there's a delicate interplay of a whole bunch of different stakeholders that aren't traditional stakeholders AV people talk to. Or if they try to talk to them, we get brought in late and at the end. So, a sign like that, there's a building owner, there's a stakeholder, there's somebody at Nike that's doing advertising. There's, those people as far as the end client goes. They're not just IT managers. There probably is an IT manager involved in that to make sure we have the backbone and fiber
There's
to get to the
100%
LED.
IT managers somewhere.
100%.
They're paying the bill.
Yes, but a lot of times what happens is, too, when you get marketing and when you get the C-suite involved and you say the bill that you've approved will get you this, and the bill that will get you this next level is X amount more, those are the two people that can say spend it, right? They'll find budget from another department. So I like to say, don't take no for an answer just because the IT budget isn't there. If you have the stakeholders in the room, experience goes beyond the IT department, and a lot of times those decisions get made and those budgets increase. But what our group does in a 20-second commercial, we are a special operations fire jumping crew that overlays all the AVISPL offices. So all of the offices across the world, and what we do is we help kind of manage that delicate interplay of architecture, content producers, fabricators, and AV to make sure clients know what's possible, and then we help fill in the gaps to make sure that we have a program manager that manages that project all the way through using the local resources and labor to deliver it, and then they have a local office there to support it long term, as opposed to a very small niche company that may have to travel a lot more. So it's a really cool thing that we're trying to pull off, and we've been doing a great job so far, and I'm super proud to be part of it.
And I'm super excited for you too, dude. Seriously, it sounds like really cool. So.
And I'm designing some XR stages now, Mark, so we should talk.
Yes, I'd love to.
All right. On that note, how you get a hold of Bren Walker, she'll say here in a second, but thank you so much, ma'am. Always a pleasure to hang out with you, and I especially appreciate it on your day off. So how do people connect with you?
You can get me, Bren, at Kierkegaard.com or Brenda J. Walker on LinkedIn. And when I make it to Twitter, it is for AV in the AM, and that is Bren Walker AV. That's the handle I have. I have no other Twitter handles, and you won't see it active except unless I am on AV in the AM. Brought me back to Twitter after I'd said I'll never, never go back.
You got her back in there, Mr. Neto.
He did. He did.
That's crazy.
How can people get to you on Twitter or this AV in the AM thing that she's talking about?
So AV in the AM is a Twitter chat. You can find us on Sunday just by typing in hashtag. That's the number sign or the pound sign, however
old you are. Yes.
Yes, that's the hashtag AV in the AM search. You'll find that out. If you go to my Twitter handle, Chris_Neto, I generally put out the 5 questions that are the topic for today. So you just take a look at them, answer the questions, jump into the mainstream or to any of the streams, answer the questions, tag AV in the AM with the hashtag or me, and I'll make sure that it gets seen and heard. Well, mainly seen. That's where you'll find me on Twitter. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Christopher Neto CTS. I still use those 3 letters at the end of my name. Still have it, which is kind of cool. So you can find me there. But I'm going to take this time and this stage to say, check out my LinkedIn post for today and a couple of things that I've done with Starin recently. We are going back to Infocom. Specifically, we are helping the folks with the service. The Silver State service animals. We're trying to raise funds to provide a first responder or a veteran with a service animal. We had them at the last Infocom that we were present at, which was in Orlando in 2019, and it was a big hit. A lot of people were big fans of the charity, and yes, we did bring puppies to a trade show, and people were using it as a mental break. So we will invite you. I can't guarantee that we'll have puppies this year, but we're looking to raise funds and do the same thing. We picked a local charity, and I think our philosophy is now first we wanted to help people, but I think we also now got to the point where we want to help wherever we're having a show. We would like to do something local to help leave it in a better place than the way we found it. So check out what we're doing there, and that is my plug. And the last thing I have to say is that at some point, Mark Coxon will become the Kevin Bacon of AV, and you will then have to say, how I am connected to Mark and how I once worked with Mark, and then you'll get back to Mark. So just telling you, that may be the drinking game at Infocom 2022.
Mine's still going to be you, Neto.
Well, I'm only one company behind him in terms of splitting around.
All right, Mr. Coxon, how do people connect with you?
Best places on Twitter. I'm active on Twitter as the AV Phenom on Twitter, so I'm there. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Slide into my DMs. I'm happy to talk. If you try to sell me something, I may give you a snarky comment back. But other than that, I'm super open and looking for new friends. So
you can also check out his incredible. He has a number of different podcasts and recordings, and also writing over at Rave Pub. So check him out there as well. For me, for Tim Albright, do not follow me on the Twitters. The Blues are still playing, so that's a positive. But go by the website if you would, please, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others, including our one monthly is AVWeek, looks at the residential side of the AV industry, and a number of different monthlies. So check all that out and more at AVNation.tv. It's AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And that's all the time we have for AV Week.